That's weird. I didn't click start streaming. I just said manage the broadcast. So I didn't realize that chat was popping up. I was trying to get my screen sketch to work. It worked on one screen but not the other. And so I'm trying to make it work on the other screen. Because the other screen's got my freaking... See, it works on that screen. Weird. I don't want this screen, though. I want it to work on the other one. Anyways, I wanted to talk about Cobb and the bomb they dropped on everybody yesterday. It has filled up my inbox in all forms of social media. It has just overall caused a bunch of drama. And I'm sick right now, right? So there's definitely a better time for this to have happened. I've been sick for like a week now. Yesterday I was feeling a little better, and so I went to the shop to try and tune a car. I actually tuned two, and then fine, come here, come on. And then I was just feeling really bad, and I had to go. So today I'm supposed to tune two as well, and I canceled one because I couldn't make it there by 10:30 this morning, just too sick. And on top of that, I've had to herd cattle because the cows got out and they broke the fence, and I don't have the thing to fix the fence, so I've just been pushing cattle back into the pasture every so many minutes. Bragging because I had to herd cattle or because I'm sick? Fuck, I don't know. Anyways, so let's talk about it a bit. So yeah, well, first off, let's get out the facts of what Cobb actually did, and I think that is the biggest thing that we need to address because there's been a lot of misconceptions about what Cobb said and what they're actually doing. So I'm gonna bring this up on the screen real quick. So Cobb's update for their Green Speed initiative. Okay, look at that, inbox 2. That's how good I keep my email. So if I ever respond to your email, it either went to spam or I don't like it. So first off, what is Project Green Speed, right? Well, I mean, the name kind of tells you what it is, right? Green speed. So how to make our cars fast and still stay green with the environment. Now, let me start off by saying there's probably only a fraction of people that work for this company, Cobb, and the company that owns Cobb, that honestly give a shit about this. And yes, all of us care about the environment. I don't want to say all of us. Most of us care about the environment, right? And cars do contribute to the pollution of said environment. However, the EPA has done an outstanding job of just targeting people that can't afford to defend themselves. You look at rockets going up 133 last year. Was it 11,000 pounds of fuel per second burned on these things, each one? The airline industry and trucking and construction and all that stuff. Those guys, industry in general, barfs out way more pollutants than what 2% of the population is doing with their cars, right? It's bullshit, right? The EPA strong arming all these companies over what is a mere fraction of the pollution that's being put into the environment is fucking bullshit. They're putting millions of dollars in effort and into into just ruining the livelihood of thousands of people and ruining the hobby of millions of people over what is just a fraction of the total pollution to the environment of every country and person in the world, right? It's fucking bullshit. Let's just get that out there. There aren't enough swear words to say it, right? There aren't enough threats to be made, right? It's absolute fucking bullshit what the EPA is doing. We're talking minuscule amounts of carbon dioxide from the motorsports industry. and then you add in the people that have money and the private jets owned by one fucking person who's belching out, 4,000 gallons an hour of fuel in his private jet to fly across the country to get a hat that he forgot. That kind of shit it's complete hypocritical bullshit, and it sucks. And the only way it's going to end is if there's some serious political pressure or people revolt and start hanging people. Like, honestly, that's it. That's all there is. The politicians and these companies like the EPA have gone on so long that they've, with just demanding and feeling powerful over everybody, that they've forgotten that this country was supposed to be power given to you by the people, and now they take it, right? So, without going too much into politics, it's fucking bullshit. Let's just get that out there, okay? So, but what does it mean, right? Well, these bullshit laws, they're using it as a revenue stream to pay for their fucking carbon credits, and they're like, oh well, we can hammer this small percentage, take all their fucking money and put it towards these super fun programs that we have to do because we let other people pollute all the fucking time. Okay? So, Leonardo DiCaprio, thank you, Paul. Yes, you recognize the reference, about that shit. So, oh, and for your information, they is good. So it sucks, right? It absolutely sucks to be the target of a powerful company that has no oversight, who is allowed to pass any law they want without any approval from any congressional authority. They pass any law without any vote by any person in the populace or anything. They begin blanket authority by Congress fucking 70 years ago, whatever it was. They can do anything that they want. It's absolutely shit. And they just sit there and they figure out whose life can we ruin next. And it's what they do. So, whose life can they ruin next? Well, they screwed over Edge. They screwed over Bully Dog. They screwed over Hondata. They screwed over Rally Sport Direct. Right? And we're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars in fines. Enough to just put people out of business forever. Okay? Millions of dollars in fines. Now, what's even more unethical about it is these people that were fined, they didn't get fined for actually defeating emissions. They got fined for the ability to defeat emissions. That's what's insane about this. These people are being fined. They're being basically convicted of something they didn't fucking do, right? They give someone the ability to defeat emissions, and whether or not an actual violation occurred is irrelevant. They're still fining people, okay? That's overreach as shit. That's ridiculous. So, Rally Sport Direct, they sell a TGV, for example. Is it installed? Was it installed? Doesn't matter. They got fined for selling it. Whether or not it was ever installed in a car, they got fined for selling it. Edge got fined for every program they sold because it had the ability to defeat DPF and cat-related stuff. Whether or not the person had a DPF, if their truck was 100% stock and all they wanted to do was add 50 horse to it, didn't matter. They didn't violate emission stuff, but they had the ability to, and therefore they got fined $4,987 per infraction. Okay? Completely unconstitutional, complete bullshit. Like, it's absolutely insane. But what does that mean? Well, it means that they have this fucking blanket power to screw over anyone they want. And so companies like Cobb and the people that own Cobb, I got motion at my front door. Do I have a cow in the front yard again? Oh, UPS is here. All right. These companies, Cobb and the ones that own Cobb, they obviously have to worry about their own finances, right? Like, they can't just go get fined millions of dollars and be like, oh, people want fucking TGV deletes. Well, we're going to take on all these millions of dollars of fines, because that's not going to make up for their sales and everything else. So they protect themselves. So unfortunately, because the EPA has this overreaching authority that's unchecked and unregulated, then everybody else is reacting to that. Instead of going to the source and fixing the EPA, whatever method that may be, I have my favorite ways. Whatever method that may be is irrelevant, right? These companies, they have to protect themselves. So how are they doing it? Well, Cobb is doing something that is actually cool, okay? Now, it sucks right now, but it's actually cool. Cobb and the business, the company that owns them, their conglomerate of stuff, they're trying to keep performance, aftermarket, and automotive alive, right? The EPA would kill it in a heartbeat. If they could do it, they would kill performance automotive instantly. They would do anything they could. So Cobb is attempting to keep it alive. Now, the way they're trying to do that is by saying, look, we can still make fast cars and meet emission standards. And so they've gone to CARB and EPA and said, these are the things that we're doing. These things meet your test requirements. And they look at the test requirements and they've gone and see, what it needs to do to pass the tests. And they figured out what loopholes there are and what they can do. So what they're doing is they're trying to make the car scene last, because the EPA would shut down instantly. So in that regard, it's good. Now, the problem is Cobb can't sit there and say, yeah, we want to be compliant, but then also provide a way for everybody to defeat emissions, right? That's saying one thing and doing another. So they can't say, no, we care about the environment mostly, right? They can't do that. So they have to, live by their words. The same, we care about the environment. That's what they have to tell the EPA, whether they do or not. I don't fucking know. They probably do some, but they know that it's bullshit, I'm guessing. So they have to say, I care. And so by doing so, they can't let you have the ability to violate emissions. Whether or not you did or not doesn't fucking matter. You had the ability to, right? So you're seeing with the precedent, it's already been lied. They've already fined RSD. They told them, so they totaled up RSD for $300 million. And then they said, but we're nice, so we're going to reduce it to $3 million, right? We know you can't afford 300, and with 3, you could probably stay in business. So we'll take the 3 so you don't declare fucking bankruptcy on the 300, right? So Cobb doesn't want the same shit. And Cobb wants the, ability for people to enjoy their cars. And the company that owns Cobb owns EcuTek, owns Autometer, owns a bunch of things, right? And their whole thing is motorsports. So if the EPA wins and motorsports goes away, then their whole business is effed, right? They're totally screwed. Why can't EPA kill them entirely if they're unchecked? EPA is not unfortunate. Well, so EPA tried. EPA tried to kill it. EPA put a measure in the middle of a bill, in the middle of a section about over-the-road trucking. It was about semis, right? And they're talking about semis, and then in one spot, line 3, it said, no person may modify a factory car in any method for the purpose of motorsports use. And then back to over-road trucking again. They just slipped in there like some slimy fucking cum guzzlers that they are. They just slid that shit in the middle of a section about over-the-road trucking. And they thought it would fly. And SEMA, they found it, and they brought it to congressmen, and congressmen then interrogated the EPA and got them to pull some stuff, and basically that was their check, right? But it has to be brought up, and then Congress has to come in and check it afterwards. There's no preemptive, right? There's no check process before it's passed. They just fucking pass it, and if someone catches it and complains enough, then someone's like, hey, you can't do that. And they're like, oh, okay. Well, what about the other 99 things that we have on there? And like, well, as long as you give this one, then it'll be okay, right? It's absolute ass. Everyone's calling me right now. Everyone's calling. It's crazy. So, oh, it's raining. So Cobb they have to get rid of the ability of people to violate emissions. Now, unfortunately, what that did is it fucked up the flex fuel cars. I mean, for years, I tell everybody that wants to do catalyst stuff, I say, no, I don't do catalyst stuff. Like, can't do catalyst stuff. It's too risky. EPA is charging way too much for fines. I'd have to charge $5,000 a tune, to make up for the fine that would happen if I got caught defeating emissions and stuff. So I don't do catalyst cars. But I did flex around the TGVs. And the reason I flex a little bit around the TGVs is because the TGV strategy is almost useless in the troubleshooting section of it. As long as TGVs work, the car runs fine. As soon as they don't work, you fucking know. You don't need a check engine light to tell you that TGVs aren't working. Like, you know when they don't work. It's immediate and apparent. And so I was like, well, the car's going to run like ass. They're going to know there's a problem. I'm not too worried about it if I steal that input for flex fuel, right? And flex fuel is the big thing. It's all about the flex fuel. I don't care about the TGVs. The 15 STI I got from Brett that EQ tuning did, it made like 800 wheel, which was probably really 650 or something wheel, but it had factory TGVs, air pump, evap, all that stuff was factory. It was catless, which is why he got busted in California and why I got the car from him returned to stock. But still, he made 650 wheel on factory TGVs and air pumps and stuff. So there's no reason not to use them. There's no reason to get rid of them. Like, oh my God, I really want that 0.01% of a horsepower that I can get by getting the TGVs out of there. Like, whatever. So I flexed on the TGVs a little bit. You know, preferably someone left them in there, and we would just steal one signal side to run the ethanol, the flex fuel sensor. And that was, or the ethanol content analyzer. That was really like the idea behind, you know, why I would do that. But now that's gone. So now I can't even do flex fuel stuff. And so that for me is the biggest impact. That affects almost 3/4 of my customers. Like, almost everybody has flex fuel stuff on their car. It burns cleaner, which is why it's so absolutely insane that the EPA isn't letting people, you know, run flex fuel, right? It burns cleaner. If they really care about the emissions, about it, you know, for the tailpipe emissions of that car, then they would not have a problem with corn. Now, whether or not the corn is cleaner for the environment is a whole other story, and maybe that's why corn lost some of their subsidies because they figured out it wasn't. You know, I don't know. But the problem with the flex fuel logic is that it stole an input from one of the TGVs for the ethanol content analyzer. And yeah, it sucks. So let's see. Let me check some of the chat, make sure I'm answering the questions as they come on. EPA is trying to game the game for them. Yeah, they are. Everything woke goes broke. Yeah, that is absolutely true. They aren't being strict on flex. It's just a byproduct of them not allowing TGV deletes. Great misogyny. Yeah, so they do have an issue with flex. CARB, California has an issue with flex. I've read it. It even says that you can't change your fuel type, even if it's cleaner. Right? California doesn't want you to change flex, and it specifically mentions flex fuel, adding flex fuel to vehicles. And I don't know where that's at now, so I can't find it for you. So that's really unfortunate. Yeah, is there a market piggybacks? Yeah, well, so let's talk about that. First, let's talk about exactly what Cobb did, because people are emailing me and worried about if their tune's going to stop working. First off, your access port has no internet. Your access port does not talk to a Cobb server unless you plug in your USB connector into your computer with your computer on the internet. Your access port is not going to delete your tune that's on there. Okay, big thing. Your access port's not going to delete what's on there. If you already have a tune that's flex fuel, you're fine. The thing is, you can't adjust it. It's forever that. If you have TGVs, the evap system is good, which it should be. There's never a reason to get rid of the evap system. There isn't. Evap system does nothing negative for you. Evap system only provides positives. There's no reason to get rid of evap system, so that's it. Okay. So if you have TGVs, evap system, and air pumps also provide no detriment to performance. The only air pump detriment is that if a solenoid fails and sticks open, then you have exhaust pressure blowing through the solenoid back into the air pump. That's it. The air pump does not harm the drivability or the running of the car in any way. It doesn't hurt power, it doesn't hurt performance. The only thing it does is light the cat off quicker when you start the car. So there's no reason to get rid of the air pump. There's no reason to get rid of evap. There's very little reason to get rid of TGVs. And then the only limiting factor then is catalysts, right? Catalysts are restrictive. And that's the only limiting factor for horsepower, and that's why people are trying to go to the high flow cats. Unfortunately, Some high flow cats are not efficient enough to meet the standards that the ECU is setting in there and will still trigger a P0420 code. And that's a problem. Does that mean it's not clean enough to pass a scan at emissions testing facility? No, I've seen lots of cars with high flow cats pass a scan. I've also seen cars with high flow cats not pass a scan. So you're kind of in the range. However, and this is the big however, the law is not written so that as long as your car passes the scan. The law is written based on the standard the car was produced to when it was produced. So the emissions testing requirements take into account wear, degradation of the catalyst, wear of the engine, more oil getting carried over as the engine wears, as compression goes down, right? The testing standards account for that. And so if you intentionally lower yourself to a lower testing standard, then technically you're breaking the law. Even if you're within the testing standard, you're still breaking the law because you're not meeting the standard the car was designed to run to. It's stupid, but I understand, okay? And we don't have a choice to not understand it because that's the way it's written. So, what'd they do? So here's their thing. Obviously, they got to do all their mumbo jumbo, we kick ass shit as a market leader in the custom tuning market, right? All this crap. What it boils down to is that these features have been removed. The ability to turn off check engine lights or DTCs for any emissions-related components. EVAP, TGVs, catalysts, EGR sensors, EGR system, EGT sensors, things like that. You can't turn off any check engine lights associated with that. You also can't affect any parameter that's associated with the testing, the verification, or the operation of those systems. By adjusting those systems, you're affecting the way that they run, and therefore you are going outside their design criteria and you're breaking the law. And I think the term they used for that was engineering design something or other. I forget what they call it. So you see here, they talk about they can't use analog flex fuel anymore because it used TGVs. So no more flex fuel. For now. Now look at this email. It specifically says analog flex fuel. That's important because the CAN bus ECUs have a CAN bus, and they're designed to take information off of that CAN bus and use it for operational reasons. Wheel speed sensors, all four on the CAN bus. Steering angle sensor, all four position on the CAN bus. And my brain just stopped, but a bunch of other stuff, even climate control stuff is on the CAN bus. AC buttons and things like that are on the CAN bus. So that stuff's all on the CAN bus, and the ECU can take that data and do things with it. And so Cobb knows damn well that they can put stuff on that bus and do stuff with it. So I could almost guarantee you that right now they're working on a CAN bus based ethanol content analyzer for Subaru. They'd be fools not to, for one. But I can almost guarantee that's what they're doing. I mean, it says right here, specifically analog flex fuel, for that reason. Now, GTR has flex fuel, and is it CAN based on that one? I know they have CAN based for the additional injector controller. I believe they have analog Nissan and Subaru. So they moved the analog one for that. Yeah. Now GTR guys got screwed because they also removed speed density from GTRs because the coding change in order to use the speed density affected things that affected emissions, and then bloop, so that went away. So those guys are screwed too. Okay, so now for the end user, if you currently have a tune that has these features enabled, you don't do anything and nothing happens to you. Okay, that's what plain and simple. Nothing happens to you. However, tuners can't do anything about it either. Tuners can't adjust your tuning anymore. Now, I don't know. I don't know if anyone has checked yet to see if real-time features are still enabled. Like if you have a flex fuel enabled tune on your car and a tuner goes in and just logs into real time, Is he able to adjust the real-time parameters that aren't emissions related? If so, that's good news. That means I can go in at least maybe change objective scaling a little bit to adjust on the MAF calibration, ignition, boost targets, and things like that. But only the real-time tables, which is going to be usually just pump gas for most guys. But some tuners swap the real-time tables to flex, or the high ethanol side, and leave them there in the end. So potentially you could have the ability for adjustments, but I don't think so. Because if you then switch the flex ones to the real-time, now it's the emissions side that's real-time, and I don't think that's going to work. But I don't know. I don't know if anyone's checked if you can do any real-time adjustments yet for a pre-existing map. But that being said, if you have a tune, your car runs good, you don't have any fucking problems, don't touch it. Do your maintenance and drive the thing until Cobb has another solution. No. I got a question. Someone said, if I'm already tuned, I plug my AXE port in my laptop, and it updates, does that mean the cell would come back on and do his mods? No. Plugging the access port into your OBD port does not change the map. You have to hit reflash to change the map. So even if you update your access port and you have an old tune on it, and you plug it back in your car to bring up your gauge screen, you will not change your tune. You have to physically hit the reflash button and enable the entire protocol so that it can overwrite the tune that's on there. And only then will your car have any issues. Okay? Yeah, we just bought, this guy says, I feel bad for all the people with Cobb flex fuel kits in stock. Yeah, I say we, not we. Tier 1 bought $3,000 in flex fuel kits like 2 days before they were discontinued. Yeah, 2 freaking days before they discontinued, they bought $3,000 of flex fuel kits. No, that's not a lot of kits, but because the kits were expensive. That's a lot of money, though. It's a lot of money to all of a sudden be worth nothing. Yeah, I mean, basically worth nothing. I mean, not nothing. The sensor is still worth $60, and the the converter could be used on any ECU technically that needs a 0 to 5 input for flex. So if you wanted to put flex on your O2 via Carberry, you could use that Cobb box and flex fuel sensor and go to your bug eye, cut the pin off and change, some things, and it will feed the 0 to 5 input for ethanol into your computer, and you can use your Carberry or open source or whatever. So it still has some value, but it doesn't have any value with Cobb's access tuning software at all. Does ECU support the features Cobb has? No. Well, yes, but no. So EcuTek is owned, or EcuTek is owned by the same company that owns Cobb. And EcuTek just released a statement today saying that they are going to be getting rid of flex fuel and emission stuff on USDM cars. So I'm going to bring that to your screen, actually. 1 second. Let me pull this open. There you go. That's really small. I'm glad you can read that. Let me zoom that bitch in for you. So EcuTek says, many of you have been asking where EcuTek stands with regards to the changes made to the Cobb software, given we are in the same group. Following consultation with the group board, the position is this. In order to comply with EP regulations in the U.S., for USDM cars only, EcuTek software will eventually incorporate similar changes to those made to the Cobb software. For Europe and the rest of the world markets, EcuTek software will not change and will not incorporate these changes. The time they make these changes to software in the U.S. market has not been defined yet. However, it will be a consultation period to spec out the changes and a development period to make the changes. It is reasonable to expect that they will not come into effect until early next year. So what that means is you get about a year if you go to EcuTek. Now, that being said, I don't do Subaru EcuTek. And if they're going to do this, I'm not going to do Subaru EcuTek because Subaru EcuTek is another almost $6,000 that I have to give them to do the Subaru stuff. So that's more money I'm going to spend for a year's worth of tuning. So kind of SOL in the EcuTek realm. So what does that mean? Well, it means if you had a tune scheduled for flex fuel on Cobb, it's over. You will not be able to utilize that. At some point, Cobb, I would think, would release a Cobb can-based one, and at some point, you will be able to get that tune done again. But until then, no flex on Cobb. Now, that being said, there are some open source solutions. I don't open source right now. Open source has fallen off really, really bad. The security is not there. The safety isn't there for the. There's no one to hold accountable when the definitions are fucked up. There's no security for tuners. People will just grab your tunes and copy them and sell them to somebody else, and then blame you if the shit fails because it's on the wrong car. All kinds of shit happens with open source. I fucking hate it for those reasons. So I don't plan on doing much open source stuff in the future because of this. But I am working with some people who are diligently trying to figure out a way of doing whatever we can to make these systems work for the cars. In the meantime, you have, well, I think, 3 options. One, if you have TGVs taken off, put TVs back on. We've already established there's almost no benefit taking them off in the first place. Same goes for air pump and EGR and that kind of stuff. 2, be patient. If you're not in a hurry for a specific reason, wait. I mean, this happened yesterday, right? So we don't know what's going to happen next. Cobb may have been said, we're going to drop this bomb, see what happens. And their website filled up with negative reviews faster than you can believe. They went from like a 4.8 star rating on Google or Facebook to 3 something in the matter of a day. So much, in fact, that they turned off reviews for their Facebook page, which is pretty crazy. People are obviously freaking out about it. Now, they could have realized that, holy shit, this had a way worse negative effect than we thought. We need to let them know we're doing something about it. Maybe. I'm speculating. I honestly don't know. Or maybe they were just like, money, 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 money. And that's it. Who knows? I don't really know. I can reinstall my emissions parts, but the flex fuel thing is real kick in the nuts. Yep, absolutely. It is definitely a kick in the nuts. Probably a stupid question. Can you tune with Cobb and then defeat when necessary with tactics? No, that's not possible. I mean, it's probably possible. I don't know how to do it. And I don't think I have a reason to do it. The only thing I'm upset about is the flex fuel. I've been turning people away for countless stuff forever, so it doesn't affect the flex fuel thing is what really sucks the most, because the flex fuel is the safest way and the cleanest way to make power, and they've eliminated that. Graham asks, Europe and the rest of the world, EcuTek software will not change. So would that be similar with Cobb, meaning buying an out-of-country software would be a workaround? I don't think so. I don't think so because 2 things. You can't use out-of-country software on U.S. cars. If they still enabled U.S. cars to be defeated, then they're not doing what they said they're doing. So, you're SOL. Could you tune with speed density on Cobb software? Yes. Yes, speed density did not get eliminated. Only flex fuel. Now, just because there's no flex fuel doesn't mean you can't run ethanol, right? You can still have what we used to have back in the day, right? Back in 2007 and prior, where we had to have an ethanol map and a pump gas map. And a lot of people still do that. So you can do an ethanol map and a pump gas map. You just gotta make sure that your ethanol is low enough. And you can put a monitor in your car that is Bluetooth to your phone or to a gauge to verify that your concentration is close enough to function with the map that you're on. So that's totally fine. I've read that Kyle blocks on the ECU can't read tax code. Correct. And that's why I said no, but yes to the gentleman that asked when he said if you could tune it with something else and defeat it with tactics. Technically, if you could get past the encryption and submit the correct key to the ECU when you were reading it, you could read what was coming off of the ECU. It would be scrambled up in a lot of areas because they change the location, the memory addresses of a lot of functions in the hex file because they're adding this other stuff in there. And so you would need to develop a definition that recognizes where the tables have been moved to. And then you'd be able to change it and reflash it with an open source software. You could do that. But if you're going to do all of that, then you wouldn't have a reason to use Cobb in the first place, because that means you already have the logic figured out in a definition file that's open source based. So you would just have a ROM. So like, let's say a 08 STI. 08 STI Flex Fuel, I tuned it a year ago. I'm a fucking software whiz, which I'm not. And I'm able to figure out what hardware key it is. I just spam it with a program that I made that just throws keys at it over and over and over until it finally finds the one. And so I get through the encryption with the right key. I pull the data off. I now have a hex or binary file. I take that file, I put it into one of multiple different software suites that are made to look at that type of file and look for patterns. I can put a predefined definition file in there that associates different tables and stuff and find things that exist that haven't changed based on 08, and then pop up flags for things that have changed. Then I find things that have changed, and then I have to figure out what the heck those things are, what they mean. Then you have to spend time decoding all of that, and then eventually we'll have a roadmap that says all the data in this hex file means this, right? And that is what the tuning software is doing for us in the first place. Cobb knows where all those definitions, knows where all of the addresses are, all the memory addresses are for all the bits and data they have in there, where the tables are located, where they are in the chain of their like assembly language. You know, it goes from here to here. These compensations move through this chain, right? This assembly flow chart, I should say, or flow path to get to the final. This is how much fuel in, and this is how long to shoot the injector. This is how long to fire the coil pack, right? That's what it comes to in the end. So then once I decode all that, I have this roadmap. I basically have a tuning solution. And that would be all done outside of Cobb. You're stealing their IP, which obviously would be bad if you were selling that as something. Then you're stealing their IP and you get the shit suit out of you. But Cobb stuff, I believe, is already based on stolen IP in the first rendition, the early stuff. I believe that the IP was actually might have been sold from the EcuTek originally, a long time ago, and then open source stuff started happening. And then Cobb borrowed open source stuff because it was open source. I mean, hey, here's some really good code that we can utilize. Let's just grab that. It's open. It's free. Somebody else may have done it, but that person left it in an open source, free use. What's it called? I can't remember. Basically, in the community, it's open for free use, so they got screwed on that. And then Cobb did a ton of their own stuff. I mean, most of the advances to the Cobb system started around probably 08, 09, somewhere in there, maybe 10, when the big open source guys went to Cobb. Cobb hired them. I mean, you have guys involved in open source, which is your primary competition, and you want to make your system better. Why not steal the guys that run the competition, right? So they hired the the guys that were big in the open source community and used them to help them design shit for Cobb. So then Cobb has an amazing, well, until yesterday, it had a really amazing solution for Subarus. Is legal to steal software that does illegal stuff? I mean, IP is IP, right? Is it if I steal $10,000 from somebody and someone breaks into my house and steals that $10,000, is that illegal? I mean, yeah, that's illegal. That person's not going to break into my house and steal money from me. Now, if they somehow figured out that I stole it from somebody else, then they would eventually go to the person that came in. But until then, that person, I mean, even then, that person's still in trouble for stealing. So I would say yes. Directory or repository? I'm not sure what you're asking there. Fuck, I am sick. So, the last option that you have, because I got off on a tangent and said there's 3 options I gave you 2. The last one is go standalone. Now, standalones. Still fucking illegal. You're not only are you tampering with emission devices, you're completely getting rid of all the logic associated with them. You're not just turning off a check engine light, you're eliminating all of the logic that exists to operate those emissions control devices. What does that mean? Well, it means that you and your tuner, if it's a street car with license plates on it, are still committing a federal crime. Whether or not your tuner is okay with that is up to whoever your tuner is. Yeah. Now, you show up with your car on a trailer with no plates on it, it's your race car, you tell him that it's got a number on the side or something, he tunes it, you take it home and throw a license plate on it, that's fucked up. I mean, it's fucked up, but it isn't your tuner's fault that you did that to him. So I don't know if he would or would not be held as accountable. I don't know. I know the answer to that. That being said, I sure love standalones. I sure love standalone systems. I'm a huge fan of Emtron. I use Emtron whenever I can on race cars especially. The motorsports features are really good. The CAN bus integration is really, really good. For CAN bus cars, Super 08 and up, the SI drive is fully functional. It's more than fully functional. Let me back that up. It is more than fully functional. The SI drive is hyper functional with an Emtron because I can assign any set of maps I want to a position on that switch. I have like 3 fuel maps, 3 spark maps, 3 boost maps, motorsports features, anti-lag maps, launch control maps. I can assign to a position on that if I want, and I can blend that with the traction control switch. So with an Emtron, I can say, you know what? In Sport Sharp, that's my kill mode. But if I turn traction control off, it'll enable launch control or anti-lag. Right? Those are options with the Emtron that are awesome. It has native flex fuel, right? So you don't need to do a 0 to 5 converter. It reads directly from the sensor, and the sensors tell the ECU if there's water in there. The sensors also tell the ECU temperature of the fuel. So you don't need a fuel temperature sensor anymore because the flex fuel sensor, the ethanol content analyzer, or stop saying flex sensor, the ECA measures ethanol concentration and temperature, which are very, very important measurements to have in the ECU. For some reason, Subaru got rid of that shit in 12, I think. It was 12 when they changed, or 11 when they changed the wire harness. Stupid shit like that. So I really like the Emtron for the CAN integration. The onboard Lambda is great. You're not waiting for another controller to output a 0 to 5 volt bullshit and then set all these timers in the ECU to keep from looking at the wrong thing. Like, let's say you use an innovative wideband. I fucking hate innovative wideband products. I think they suck ass. They eat sensors. They're inaccurate. They take forever to warm up. They lose calibration all the time. They're just the worst product on the market when it comes to widebands. I'm pretty sure any moron could solder a fucking PCB in his house with limited knowledge on how widebands work and produce a better product than Innovate does. So, but let's say you're one of the poor suckers that owns an Innovate product. When it's in warm-up, it provides you with an AFR reading of like 7.45 to 1 or some shit like that when in warm-up. And sometimes the sensors take too long to warm up. Sensor one day takes 50 seconds to warm up, but your timer setting is 20 to 30 seconds. Now, so you got 30 seconds where the ECU goes, oh shit, I'm running 7.45 to 1 AFR. I need to pull a bunch of fuel out. And it pulls a bunch of fuel out, and the car lean misfires, and it gets a weird trend until the O2 sensor finally turns on. Then it swings over to lean, and then the ECU is like, oh shit, we're lean. Let's dump a bunch of fuel back in. It's absolutely stupid. It sucks to deal with, and no one likes it. They should have just output a 14.7 during warm-up so that the computer didn't wig out, or just not sucked. That's what I think. Now, that problem exists for a lot of 0 to 5 volt wideband sensors. Not fun to use, because you also have issues where the 5 volt produced is different than the 5 volt the ECU is using for reference. So, and during operation, based on battery voltage, the difference in those 5 volts can vary. So a 0 to 5 volt wideband sensor, external being fed in the ECU, is far less accurate than something that's in the ECU or CAN based, because CAN doesn't care about a voltage difference on a 5-volt reference bus. There's no difference there. It doesn't care. So it says AFR is 13.2, and that's given to the ECU. There's no miscommunication along the way or whatever. So CAN-based wideband is the second best option out there for sure, and the best is onboard. With onboard, the ECU knows exactly what's going on. They know if it's a warm-up, if it's ready, if it's not ready. You don't need to put all these weird delays and timers on it. You don't need to do a bunch of weird stuff, waiting for it to warm up, hoping it doesn't give you some weird response into the engine's EMS. So that's where Emtron is awesome, because it has onboard lambda 2. The KV8, which is what I would use, KV8 or 12 is what I would use on a CAN-based bus, Subaru 08 and newer, based on what kind of features I want. It has 2 onboard widebands if you need to run them. You don't on a 4-cylinder Subaru usually. It also has the option for cruise control. Subaru Cruise Control is supported by the Emtron. It comes with your CAN integration package, I think. It might be free, but I know that you have to buy a CAN integration package for whatever car you're using Emtron in. It's another 200-something bucks for the Subaru CAN-based, and you get the cruise control too. It is supported on the Emtron, and that's awesome. A lot of standalones don't retain cruise. So my Emtron, I do not think has Wi-Fi. The only one that has Wi-Fi right now is the Nexus R5 and the one that started the Wi-Fi thing, and that was Adaptronic. They already make plug-and-play harnesses for the Emtron. Boomslang makes them. So I just use him. I am doing 3 Emtron standalone installs in the next couple weeks. Those are getting pushed back a little bit because of the Cobb fiasco that's happening. And then I have some Emtron tunes coming up. In addition to those 3, I got Anton's there. And then my own car as well. I have a KV12 going in my car. It's actually right here. I got 3 Emtrons right there above me. I'm like, oh, this isn't tied down. I can show you. I actually cleaned my office. I organized all this stuff. Organized my books and references. More stuff. I got a cat on a cat tree, so I gotta move this stuff out of the way. And then I got some Emtrons up there. Is that reversed? Huh. I didn't think I had this set on reverse. Bloop. It is reversed. And that's this button. Hey, look at that. There we go. Don't want that reversed. What's it say about this? So yeah, Emtron does cruise, flex, anti-lag, launch control, spark cut for sequentials, you name it, and you can make it do things. You can make it do whatever you want. There's user maps. You can assign an output to a user input, assign parameters to that, make either a 3D table with axes that you choose, combined with switches based on 3 layers of 2 switch in each layer logic. It's just like a long sequence. So you get like 6 switches you can put in parameters for turning on and turning off, as well as delays and everything else. So you can set up almost anything you want with the Emtron, based on whatever input you want to put into the ECU, based on whatever parameter you want it to do it off of. So there's no limitation in that regard. The only thing that Emtron doesn't have, wife is on lunch apparently. She texted me a bunch just now. Feeling shitty as hell. Feeling shitty AF. And cows are still out. And fence is still broken. Fence still broken. All right. DC-CD control. I mean, the factory one still works. The Emtron puts the necessary data on the CAN bus that the DC-CD controller is looking for, so the factory one still works. Should you want to change that, you could. You could absolutely change that. You could use I'm pretty sure a high current output on the Emtron is strong enough for it. If not, you'd have to use like a solid state relay, a high current solid state relay like they use for like tram brakes and that kind of stuff, and trigger that with a pulse width, a duty cycle, if you would, that would control your lockup. You could make tables in the Emtron if you so desired, or you could use an external controller like the map ECCD. I have one back here. I think the last one in existence on the shelf back here. I like the map ECCD. What's cool about the map though is that it has a 4V input, or 4D input, so you can take an output from the Emtron or whatever standalone you have and feed that into their logic to bias the output of the DCCD if you wanted. So the DCCD controller from map has, you know, yaw and throttle and brake and vehicle speed and all of that, but it doesn't have power and boost, right? So if you wanted to instead change your 40 output to a torque calculation, you could make the 40 output a torque calculation, feed that into the software, and therefore respond to the DCCD based on that. Or you could create your own controls and math channels in the Emtron and do it yourself. You can also do math channels in Link, the Link G4 Plus or X. Link G4 X does a lot of math channels. You can do whatever you want with it. The Link lacks a lot of the features that the Emtron has, and the CAN bus integration is not very good with the Link. So the newer cars, unless Link has stepped it up in the last handful of months, I haven't seen the Link CAN integration in the last few months, but it was pretty non-existent before. So you're going to be SOL on a lot of that stuff. Whereas Emtron and I think Motec have the best CAN integration, and then Haltech has CAN integration. Oh yeah, I need to go check out those cows real quick, make sure they're not. Let's go check out some cows. I don't know if my Wi-Fi will reach far enough, but oh, it's hailing. Sweet. No, cows are gone. All right, let's see. Boy, I look terrible. Whoops, wrong camera. Cows into the field. That's good. I gotta replace these windows pretty soon here. A little personal thing. I got my little plants, my peppers right here growing. They're looking a little yellow right now. I need to put them in new soil with fresh nutrients. I did an experiment. I put this one in fresh soil first, and it went poof and grew up, and these guys are still small. So obviously you do the same. Those are onions, peppers. We got spinach and lettuce and cucumber and other stuff in the little hut there. And then got some plum trees out there, and I got apples and cherries and pears on the other side of the yard over there. So anyways, it's good. So the cows had moved to the other pasture, so we're good there. Cows are in other pasture. All right. There are a lot of city features you can set up with this parameters too. To Emtron, it's really impressive. I'm just worried it will get nerfed because they owned by Cobb's parent company. Emtron? You're talking about EcuTek. I think you're confusing companies.
Love, power, passion, self-expression.
By the same company.
These are just some of the words that describe our enthusiast-based marketplace that has grown into a $43 billion industry and shows no signs of slowing down. An industry where consumer...
no one's getting around this. There's no special person who's getting by. Like, oh yeah, my access tuner is going to work fine because I paid $150 for this course. Well, fuck you. I'm paying $300 a month for a decade to Cobb to tune with their shit. And what did I get? Right? I got dicked like instantly. So, no, you're not getting anything special. It's going to force an update on your stuff, and it's going to force an update on your software. If you don't do it, it's going to shut it down. And then, and yeah, it's already locked down. So nobody is getting by this, except for people that work at Cobb themselves. So what they did, and this is interesting, is that it shows little lock symbols. Maybe I can show you guys that. Let's see. It shows little lock symbols in the software, and which means they're still in there, right? They're still in there. You just can't access them. So let me show you. Here's what it looks like. Right here. See? So the map has them still, or the software has them in it still, but they've been disabled. You can't do anything about it. So it tells you that the map that you're opening had this and that you're SOL. Basically what it's telling you. FA20 and BRs are STI trans. I know won't take work. I don't think Emtron has a DIT one yet. I know that they're working on it. Let me see if they come up with it. I don't know. Let me check. Emtron.world. So, I'll just do the same tab that we're looking at here. Fuck it. On my fourth monitor. I got 4 monitors. Isn't that stupid? KV8. Go to shop. So the KV8 is the one that I use. It's the one that I prefer. Application builds. They've got, here's a GDI for Bosch. I don't know what car that's for. HPI 5. I don't know what that is. So they have a direct injected build for Bosch GDI 5, whatever that is. STI. BRZ. Oh yeah, they do BRZ. Yeah. So they do BRZ. They got to do some direct injection. Whether or not they have it for the WX20 or not, I don't know the answer to that. I got to look into that one more because I don't really know what specifics are involved in using the Emtron on the BRZ, but they have it. So they obviously have the technology to do the DIT cars. But it doesn't say WRX, right? It doesn't say WRX. This only says STI. And I don't even know what that's in. Bosch GDI 5. What is that? 5-point leveling alignment laser. Nope, not that one. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Emtron's Ostrader 3K. Yeah, well, they were cheaper. So, just a few weeks ago, I posted that it was a last chance sale because Emtron was raising the prices 25%. And I posted on my website, I posted on Facebook, I posted on Instagram, I posted in my Discord to get on and get an Emtron before price went up. And only 2 people took me up on that. And now there's a lot of people that are regretting that because it's a lot more expensive now. A lot more expensive. So, what was it? I think it was $2,600 retail before. Now it's $3,400 retail for a KV8. That's a big jump. But the chip shortage has driven everything up. I mean, look at video cards now. You want a 3070, and you're looking at $1,200 or $900. I mean, $900 for 3070, and a 3080 is $1,200 or more. So the chip shortage has screwed everybody. COVID has screwed everybody. Time to get hacking. Oh, it's definitely encrypted. And Cobb is very proud of their encryption. Cobb is very proud of their encryption. because they did such a fucking good job on it. So, good luck on that. Is the application build the firmware software you load on the ECU? Yes. It is a firmware or a software that you load onto the ECU. That's why it's extra. And it has all the information for the CAN data, the locations, setting up the ins and outs and all of that. So I can plug a KV8 into an STI, and if I don't have the application build, TAC won't work. Most of the cluster won't work, really. The ECU won't know vehicle speed and won't know a lot of stuff. So climate control won't work correctly. A bunch of stuff doesn't work. The G4X for pre-2008. Yeah, pre-CAN bus, man. The Link can't be beat, man. It's Link has gone up a lot too. The price on the Links have jumped up quite a bit. And that's obviously going to be an issue for a lot of people. Same reason, the chip shortage, and they're in Australia too, right? Or they New Zealand? I forget. They're Australia, New Zealand, down there somewhere. But the prices have jumped dramatically as well. Many hundreds of dollars for the same unit now of what it was just 6 months ago. But yeah, for pre-CAN bus, the Link beats the Haltech in every way, except one. Haltech will do full pressure ratio tuning. The Link, you have to do a math channel and make it happen a different way. But the Haltech has pressure ratio tuning integrated into it. Other than that, the Link's fucking way better. A lot of guys think the Haltech's better. I personally like the Link more. They're both really powerful. They're both good. The Haltech is just really, really short on inputs. The 2500 does not have enough inputs. You can't run a new CAN bus car with every feature on a 2500 Elite. There isn't enough inputs. You can't do it. You can drive the car and have a bunch of things work, but there's a lot of inputs you cannot use. And it's dumb. You have to be really picky about what you want to work. The factory ECUs have a ton of inputs. It's pretty surprising how many inputs they have, and how much logic there is based on the inputs. And to get a Haltech to have as many inputs and features as an Emtron would cost you more than Emtron would in the first place. The Haltech, you have to get the Haltech, and you have to buy the expansion pack. You might have to have 2 expansions on it, the expansion modules, and having 2 expansion modules, and then you need to get the wideband O2 sensor, a dual channel to be the same as the Emtron, and to be way more than Emtron is in the first place. And the inputs for the expansion packs aren't synchronized inputs, so there's a lot of features you can't run off those inputs and outputs. Anyways, it was a big fucking fiasco. The Emtron has got way more than the Haltech. It's all integrated, and if you want to run an expansion pack, you can use the Motec one and one that Emtron offers. Emtron one's fucking expensive. It's like $900 for their expansion, but I think it's like 16 more inputs and outputs. Oh, it's on CAN devices. Sorry. I wanted to get this here, the ETC. Is it ETC 8? No, it was EIC 8. And then they have, or 10. It was 8 or 10, and they have the 16. The 16M, it's a motorsports one. You see it's got the big motorsports Amphenol connector on it. And, oh wow, it's gone up a lot. That was $900. But it provides you with another ton. I think it's 16 plus inputs on here. What is it? 12 analog inputs. 0 to 5. 4 analog inputs, 0 to 16 volts. 500 hertz sampling rate. It's got 4 frequency inputs, up to 650 hertz, or 6500 hertz, I mean. And switch bowl 1K pull-ups on 9 through 16, 5 volts. So it's got a lot of inputs. It's a really powerful module. It increases the size of the ECU dramatically, basically. And yeah, it's sweet, but you can see Bum, 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 bum. It's some money. But, like I said, Emtron comes with more than the Haltech does, plus an expansion harness or two. So you're already going well beyond what the Haltech would have. And this has way better CAN integration and way better features. Haltech doesn't use like any of the SI drive shit like the Emtron does. In fact, I have M2 on this computer. I'm gonna open the software quick. I'll show you. It's pretty cool, actually. Move it to the screen that you guys get to see. You see that? Yeah, okay. We'll do Subaru. All right, so let's see what functions this one has enabled right now. Why did that go to the other window? That's fucking weird. Okay. Secondary load table. You guys can't see that because it came to the other window. That is bizarre. Huh. Well, I can't show you these menus because they popped up on the other screen. Let me try this. I go to the config menu, and then you go to functions. Then you can see they got all these engine-related functions, as well as vehicle-related functions, which are mostly also engine-related functions. Other vehicle functions. It works with the push button start, has a mobilizer, stuff that you can activate. Motorsports functions, rolling launch control, traction control, gear cut control, gear shift control, differential control. See, there's your differential you're talking about right there. Transmission brake control, water spray, nitrous, flame control. Yeah. Generic timers and user functions like I was talking about before. This one, they got some stuff working. Wish Adaptronic was still worked on. I really liked it. Yeah, Adaptronic, they really dropped the ball, didn't they? I mean, they are technically still working on it. They are still working on it. There are firmware updates quite regularly still. I just got so mad at them for fucking up things that I stopped using it. I had one. Car idled great, but it had an issue with around 3,000 RPM. It was hesitating, and there was no like apparent reason. And I email them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you got to update your firmware. We figured out we had some redirect going in the wrong place. So update the firmware. The car wouldn't idle anymore. It was oscillating like crazy, and it was just freaking out. Put the old firmware back on, idles great. And that's really weird. Contact them like, no man, you're just doing it wrong. There's no issue with it at all. Nothing changed in the idle control. Everything's fine. I'm like, well, it doesn't idle with this firmware. It idles with the old firmware. So clearly you guys changed something. No, you're just doing it wrong. So I contact their other turbo source guys and other people like that. I'm like, no, you just know what you're doing. You're just an idiot. And then I cussed them all out, made some bad videos about it, and then 2 days later, firmware update comes out. Love the new firmware update. Bing! Car idles again. Weird. So it was shit like that happened all the time. You would get a firmware update, punch it, all of a sudden your check engine light would come on at 4,000 RPM and then shut off at 6,000. And you're like, what? Look at the codes. No codes apparent. It just shows that all of a sudden it turned on and then turned off. You're like, what? There's nothing in the logs. And then you contact them like, oh, whoops, we goofed that up. We went to AI8 instead of DI8. And they would send you another firmware update where they'd fix that error. It was just nonstop errors. It was like they never tested their fixes. It was just error after error. And then like, oh, we fixed this one. And then they induced another one in that fix. And I just was like, fuck this. I'm so tired of that. But it was cool because it did have Wi-Fi. And you could download logs via Wi-Fi. And you could tune via Wi-Fi if you wanted. There was some cool shit with it, for sure. But the non-stop fucking firmware screw-ups was just insane. I think in 1 week they had like 4 firmware updates, and each one was like a knee-jerk reaction to the last one they fucked up, which fucked up the new feature. And for some reason, I always found every function that happened. I don't know why. So, yeah, it's going to be CAN-based there. He says, any thoughts how the next flex fuel kit will operate rather than TGV signal? Yes, CAN-based. And you're right, you did miss that. We covered that earlier. Yeah. They already have CAN bus stuff. Now, it won't work on older cars. They don't have CAN bus. You're SOL if you have an older car. if you're 07 and older, you're screwed. I don't think they're going to have a solution for that, unless they decide to hijack fuel temp, for example. Fuel temp, it's not used that much in the Subaru ECU, so you could hijack fuel temp. And it's not used for emissions control. So if they use the fuel temp input as the 0 to 5 with ethanol, they could do that. Yeah. Yeah, Anton, he's the one in chat here. I think he was the first one to put it on an STI. They had to figure out how fucked up the Subaru triggers are in the CAN bus to get his car to run, because the cam sensor swaps phase and stuff. At certain RPMs, it freaks out and changes phase. So use fuel temp IO as a bus input. What? Right. Hope they hijack the fuel temp, otherwise I'm screwed. Yeah, I mean, if you're older, then you're SOL. Add IO bus to Subaru. Oh, well, it'd have to be CAN bus, right? And then you'd have to, the computer would need to have a CAN functionality using that input, and obviously that wouldn't work, so that wouldn't happen. Anton commented that it took a year for them to fix the triggers for the Subaru so that they would even run, because the passenger side cam trigger for some reason swaps phase all the time. So with those, you got to change it from falling or rising to any edge, and then filter out every so many edges is kind of what you have to do on something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Jack says he's got an 06 WX, and he obviously must have flex on it, and so he's going to have to run 2 maps. Yep. This is super exciting. What about HP tuners for stock ECU? Yeah, I don't think they're going to offer nearly the stuff. I mean, we could find out. I don't think they're going to have nearly what Cobb had. And I don't think they're going to have control over the emission stuff either. They've been pretty against doing emission stuff as well. I don't know what that means, Ashton. I'm not a computer science guy, so I have no idea what the fuck I2C means. I'm an engine guy. I'm a mechanical fluid systems guy. I'm a analog, electrical, AC or DC guy. I am not good with computer science and different communication protocols. I know what some of them are. I know a little about CAN, but I don't know shit about programming, and I don't know shit about a bunch of other stuff. So, which is why I just applied at my local college to take a computer science course, get that degree. I already have all the math covered. Oh, except for one class, I got to do discrete math, which actually coincidentally is the last class I need to get my mathematics degree too, which I never finished. So if I take the computer science course, I'll get the math degree, and then 4 classes later, I'll get the computer science degree, because I already have everything else. Do I hardwire 340s? No, not usually. They're near the limit of the capability of the controller. My preference is using a GTR field pump controller. Using one of these. For a 340, I just go on Amazon, R35 GTR fuel pump module. You see how much longer it is. Plug in the factory wiring, run a 340, and it's got enough heat sink and everything in here. It'll run that pump no problem. Bigger than that, I'll run like 450s or 525s off of one of these, but you do need to update the battery cable and the ground to them, This plugs right into the Subaru harness. It's the exact same manufacturer. It's the same pinout. It's the same everything, same function. Everything is identical to the Subaru controller, only it's bigger, handles more load, because the GTR came with 2 fuel pumps. So this is what I recommend for most people. Works great. I hate having a high flow fuel pump with no fuel pump control, because you have all sorts of issues with fuel temp and fuel flow and regulator overrun and all sorts of stuff. So slowing the pump down is great. Dom, I do not need to update my AP if I am not changing anything in my car that was prototyped 5 years ago. Correct. I'm not sure that was a question or an answer, but you're correct. You don't need to do anything. And you can. Updating your AP is not going to do shit. It's not going to all of a sudden change your map. So, and as long as you don't reflash your car again, yes, that's what plug and play means. Same one. Just plug it right in. And then for, like I said, for bigger pumps like 450s and 525s, you got to update or upgrade to a larger power wire from the battery. What I like to do is the battery here in the Subaru wiring diagram, this battery goes through the fuel pump relay. So it goes from the battery to the fuel pump relay, down the side of the car, into here. So while it says battery positive, it's not actually full-time battery because it goes through the fuel pump relay. So what I do is use that lead to trigger another relay that I put locally next to this and run a wire to the battery. So you have a fuel pump relay that triggers a relay that triggers a big battery wire that powers this guy. It's the easiest thing to do when running these, when you have to upgrade the wire to these. It's just the easiest way to do it. And then upgrade the ground as well. And then you can power 2 450s off of one of these. I tend to just run 2 or 3 of these in a system. So you can daisy chain the DI input on here. Or not DI, the FPC. Yeah, FPC. You can DI the FPC lead. That's the one that provides this with the pulse width or duty cycle needed to drive the pump a certain amount. So you can just take that and wire it into other ones of these, and then just wire off all the shit and run one fuel pump with this one fuel pump off the other one fuel pump off another one, and then you can have 2 or 3 of these in parallel if you want with 3 fuel pumps, and you turn all the fuel pumps really slow at 20% at idle, and then crank them all up in stages as your as power goes up. So I like to run 2 of these really. 2 of these with 2 525s. I pretty much do almost anything I ever need, and they work really good. And they work awesome with standalones because this will work at any duty cycle from 0 to 100. The factory ECU has 3 switching points. Now, you could, in theory, rewrite the ROM on the factory ECU to have a table that's duty cycle based on whatever parameters you want, RPM, duty cycle, manifold pressure, whatever you want it to be. You could do that. Nobody's done it with the Subaru because the 3 switch points work okay, and that's kind of a pain in the ass. But with a standalone, you can. With a standalone, you just set it, whatever table parameter you want, you put it in there, and you can vary the pump speed infinitely from 0 to 100. Now, it might take 8% or so to get a pump spinning, just based on voltage requirements of that pump and maybe system drag or whatever, but you can do that. So with a standalone, like the Emtron, you can run it at any speed. Does this have fuel pump speed turned on? I think it does, right? Fuel pump speed 1, auxiliary channel 7. All right. So tuning. Come on now. Is that engine or is that vehicle control? Fuel pump speed. Oh, you fucking cuck. Fuel pump speed. Wow, that is really off. Fuel pump speed table. Did it pop up? There we go. So you'll see in this case, somebody programmed intentionally 336699 in here, but they didn't have to. I found that it's only 3 speed. What do you mean? You're saying this is only 3 speed? I'm waiting for an update. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But in the GTR, it's not just 3 speeds. Yeah, $120. Well, it ain't new. It ain't new. That's a used one on eBay for $120. New, they're like $600. Anton's saying he thinks it's only 3 speeds. That's interesting because on the GTR software, they're not 3 speeds. And I have definitely slowed them down and seen pressure drop with a 20 and a 25 input. So that's interesting. I wonder if there's like some room in there or something. But yeah, this shows only 33, 66, 99, which make you think that that's the case, that it really is only 3 speeds. Well, let's see who makes this. This is a Denso. Wait a minute. There it is. I've been wrong before. Well, that could be. I could see that happening. Until it triggers a certain point. It could be a wider window than just 33, though, because that'd be weird for it to happen right at 33, because if you fed it a 33 hertz signal, then, and it came off either side, then all of a sudden it'd be switching speeds, medium, slow. So it's got to have a window. And so it's possible that I was operating in a window and seeing different things. Let's see. Whoops. No results found. Nice. Well, if I look up on Denso's website and their catalog, there's nothing for an OEM. Well, this isn't the OEM catalog either, I guess. Let's put in their part number. Let's try that. I'm going to see if Denso has the information on this. Well, this is completely worthless. This Denso website is completely worthless. You can't put anything in here, it doesn't make a difference. Obviously, the OEMs get their own catalogs and shit like that, but sometimes these original equipment manufacturers will have documentation about their parts so that other companies that are looking for a fuel pump controller can find them. So it makes sense if they did, but I don't see anything with that part number. If you use the Nissan part number, that's only going to yield Nissan results. Yeah, this is Nissan part number, so I'm just getting Nissan manuals and stuff. It's the same for Nissan Armada as well. So Nissan Armada, GTR, and a few other things too. The Infiniti QX70, FX50. So most Nissan cars that have a V6 or larger in it have that in them. I suppose I can take it apart, look inside, and then I'll tell us if it has 3 different circuits in it with resistors or what. There are also, like I talked about before, solid state relays that you can use to power a load and have an infinite-ish duty cycle. And if this is actually only 3 speeds, which I guess it could be. I always thought it seemed like it was making a difference when I was at 20%. I was getting less regulator overrun than when I was at 33%. Yeah, they're the same as the Subaru ones. I just don't recall what it looks like inside. I've got one in the garage taken apart somewhere. Yeah, just a couple more coils and resistors and shit. So, anyways, I could be wrong. You might not be able to infinitely adjust, but you still have 3 set points, so you could run them at 33%. Oh, and another benefit of that is with the factory ECU, when you first start the engine, it runs 100% duty cycle for like 10 to 30 seconds, and it overruns the fuel pressure regulator. When it overruns the regulator, fuel pressure goes up, the car starts running rich misfires because the O2 sensor is not even warm yet. Eventually, the O2 sensor warms up, pulls a bunch of fuel out of it. Usually that happens really close to the time the regulator then slows down, or the controller slows down to the speed, and so you get this misfire and then some oscillation, and everything finally stabilizes. With these ECUs, there's no 100% runtime. Like, you can set up if you want to, but you don't have to have it run 100% on startup. So if you got huge fuel pumps, it's only going to run the 33 at startup. So you don't have to worry about that regulator overrun happening and it's making the car hesitate and run like shit like they do. A lot of us with the Subaru software, we have to go, with the Subaru ECU, we have to go in and remove fuel from the post-start for hot enrichment, or remove hot start enrichment and just post-start enrichment at higher temperatures to prevent that from happening. But that has other consequences too. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes you don't. So it isn't just like, oh, just remove enrichment. That'd be great. Because if that fuel pump slows down and the car still needs the enrichment, now you're running lean and you're misfiring the other way. So it's just a pain in the ass with an Emtron like this. Boom, I start the car, 33%. I'm not overrunning the regulator or nothing. And also, fuel pressure compensation is inherent to the system. So I can put a fuel pressure sensor, feed it directly into the Emtron. If my fuel pressure is high, if I am experiencing regulator overrun, then the Emtron will see that and will reduce the duty cycle as necessary by estimating the increased flow rate of the injectors, reduce the duty cycle, and maintain fueling close to the target. This system does run larger injectors better than the factory ECU, but not a lot better down low because that's still a limitation of the injector itself and a little bit with the ECU's control scheme. So you'll still have a hard time running 1700cc injectors on pump gas stoichiometrically. Now, you could target a much richer AFR than stoich and not have a problem. Or you could run 8 injectors. Run 2 sets of 1050s. The car idles great on 1050s on pump gas or ethanol. The car drives great, makes lots of power. I mean, you got 20-something hundred cc's of fuel flow available. The 1050s will flow 1300 if you carry the pressure, or if you need even more than that for some reason, you could run 8 1300s. But the 1050s are a lot cheaper than 1300s, and 2100 cc's of fuel is more than most people would ever fucking need. So you can run 4 or 8 1050s. Obviously, to do that though, you need custom TGVs. But again, if you're doing a standalone, you don't give a shit about TGVs and all that stuff because you're not dealing with that. Anton has dual injectors too. What do you have, Anton? 2 1050s? 2 sets of 1050s? I forget. And that's called staged injection. You can trigger them to come in at various times based on either duty cycle or load or preemptively, or you can do all kinds of stuff with staged injection. It's a lot of fun. RX-7s, rotaries are known for stage injection. That's something they've had forever because injector technology was ass a long time ago, and so they really needed to have 2 sets of injectors because they have 3 combustion events per revolution, whereas like a normal car, each rotor has 3 combustion events per revolution. Is that right? Yeah. Whereas the our cars Yeah, Anton's got 81050s. That's correct. Okay, so he's got 81050s. We have 2 combustion events per revolution for the engine total. Can Emtron control underbody LED light strips? Yes, and it can change the brightness of the LED light strips based on torque output or vehicle speed or whatever you want. Anton is running 8 Cobb injectors on his Emtron controlled STI. That's funny. We haven't had a fucking access port on your car in freaking years, man. Like, was it 2009 maybe? Last time we had an access port on it? Because we went, what? Vipec first? Was it Vipec first? Vipec and then Vipec or Link and then Adaptronic and then Emtron? Was that the progression? I forget. Yeah, links in my bio for the Emtron. Just kidding. Just Emtron.world. So they're on my website. If you so wanted an Emtron, I can sell you one. I got them set on my website. They're just retail on the website. If you're looking to get like a full package together, we can put a package together and we could get a full package together and, provide a package price. It's not going to be huge, emissions. Yeah, read your emissions while I was saying. Not going to be a huge discount in price, but it will be a discount in price. Because a package would include the ECU, the wiring harness adapter, O2 sensor, preferably like a TMAP or an EMAP sensor. I really prefer to run EMAP and TMAP on the cars and blend them all together. Things like that. Oh yeah, Hydra, that's right. And then, oh yeah, that's right, fuck. Hydra, the AM V2, Link, Adaptronic, Emtron, yeah. That's basically almost the exact same I've gone, because my RS was the same thing. It was Hydra, and I don't recall if I did AM on the RS or not. I know I did AM on the STI, but then I did Link, Adaptronic, and Emtron on my RS as well, in that order. Where's my other fucking flange? Yeah, I mean, Emtron's got a lot of shit, so it's a good reason to be last. Anyways, guys, I gotta go. I feel like absolute ass. My head is a brick. I can't breathe, and I haven't eaten yet today. And I'm supposed to in a car. I don't know if I'm even going to make it. It's a half-hour drive, and I got to sit in a fucking windy dyno cell and stuff. I don't know if it's going to happen. We'll see. But but I got to go. If there's any other questions I can answer, please let me know. If you want to join the Discord and chat with us in there, we have a bunch of guys that are software guys too that are looking at other solutions as well. We talk about a lot of stuff in there, not just car stuff, but definitely car stuff. And feel free to email if you want, Dominic@gettydomji.com. If you want to chat about your car too, that also works. And thanks, Jack. I appreciate it. I've been sick for a fucking week, man. Over a week now. I don't know. I thought I was getting better yesterday, but nope. So just to cap it off one last time, yeah, I tried that yesterday. I think that's why I'm sick today. Don't freak out. You may have to put TGVs back on. Flex fuel's out the window for now. Probably gonna have to do 2 maps, a pump gas and an E85 map on your car. You can get a flex fuel monitor so you can monitor your ethanol concentration via Bluetooth. That's a good way to go. You can still do that. And just don't panic too much. Obviously, there's some stuff that you're SOL on. You're just screwed because of this update. But for the most part, motorsports still exists, and part of that is due to the efforts of Cobb and the SEMA organization. And so let's count our blessings there. But if you got a race, you should have motorsports ECU anyways. Let's do that. Obviously, it's not cheap, and that sucks. But it is the best situation, or the best solution for motorsports anyways. You can do so much with the motorsports ECU. It's so much fun. And if your car's a total fucking piece of shit, I won't tune it. Unless it's on a standalone, then I'll tune it. So, I mean, there's always that aspect of it too. I got guys that bring me the biggest jalopies ever, and it's on a factory 16-bit ECU that's worn out, and the fucking 5-volt reference bus isn't even working correctly anymore. I just say, I'm not going to tune your fucking piece of shit. But that same piece of shit car can show up with a fucking Mega Squirt on it, and I'll tune it. I'm not sure why that is. I realize that's a weird paradigm, but that is how I am. So if you got a standalone, I'll tune it. If it's a Mega Squirt or a Link or a Haltech, a Motec, something like that, I'll definitely tune it. If it's an AM, I'm going to recommend not. If it's a Hydra, I'm going to tell you to get fucked. But for the most part, almost every standalone is fair game to some extent. You just have to understand that there's going to be limitations in operation based on which one you get. And a lot of that is going to be directly related to how much money you spend on it. So anyways, hit me up if you want to talk about it some more. Appreciate you guys hanging out.